Christine and Brian first crossed a forbidden line at a college graduation party, just as she and Ethan had begun dating. That night, Ethan drank too much and passed out in one of the bedrooms, leaving his best friend and his new girlfriend caught in an uncontrollable wave of passion. The moment it was over, reality crashed down on them. They knew how wrong it was and swore never to speak of it again, especially not to Ethan. Christine buried that night deep in her mind, erasing it completely. But Brian couldn't do the same. He kept bringing it up, tempting her to give in once more. Time and again, Christine stood her ground, reminding him that Ethan was his best friend. But years later, Brian finally broke her resolve. After that second betrayal, he left to serve in the Army and continued re-enlisting for several more years. Christine exhaled in relief, hoping he would settle far away, never to disrupt her and Ethan's life again. Within a year, Christine and Ethan got married. Not long after, she showed her husband a pregnancy test, the two unmistakable pink lines confirming they were about to become parents. 9 months later, Ethan held his newborn daughter, a baby girl who resembled him so much it was almost eerie. Through it all, Ethan regretted that his best friend wasn't around for such important milestones. Brian had missed their wedding, unable to get leave, and wasn't there for the birth of Ethan's first child. They kept in touch through calls and texts, but it wasn't the same. Ethan longed for Brian's presence, unaware of the secret buried beneath their friendship. Then, without warning, Brian reappeared. One random afternoon, he showed up at their doorstep, announcing that his service had ended and he was moving back home. Ethan was ecstatic. Christine, on the other hand, felt a sharp pang of unease. To make matters worse, Brian had changed. Years in the Army had sculpted his body, broadening his shoulders and refining his frame. His shirt hugged his chest, emphasizing the strength he had gained. Christine caught herself staring, and so did Brian. Though he kept his expression neutral, she knew he had noticed. Her pulse quickened, thread seeping in. What if Brian slipped up? What if he said something to Ethan? The thought plagued her, especially when the two men went out drinking. Christine couldn't rest until Ethan was safely home, her secret still intact. The saying goes, what's on a sober mind can spill from a drunken mouth. And Brian seemed determined to make up for lost time. He found any excuse to visit, constantly inviting Ethan out for drinks or offering to help with the baby. But the truth was, Christine didn't just fear Brian. She didn't trust herself. This wasn't some meaningless mistake. She had cheated on Ethan twice, with the same man. And deep down, despite everything, she was still drawn to Brian. Since his return, forbidden thoughts haunted her. Every night, she dreamed of being with him again, the images growing more vivid, more relentless. It was driving her insane. The tension seeped into her marriage. Ethan noticed how short-tempered and restless she had become. She snapped at him over trivial things, and even her patience with their daughter wore thin. Ethan assumed Christine's mood swings and irritability stemmed from exhaustion. Being a new mom stuck at home all day had to be draining, so he did everything possible to make things easier. After work, he'd take their daughter to the park or drop by his parents' house, hoping to give Christine a little breathing room. But none of it helped. If anything, it made her feel worse. Ethan was being the perfect husband, thoughtful, caring, patient, while she was plagued with thoughts she had no business entertaining. Meanwhile, Brian only made things worse. More than once, he took advantage of moments when Ethan's back was turned. He'd corner Christine, hands roaming where they didn't belong, lips seeking hers. Each time, she shoved him away, whispering harshly, "Stop it. Have you lost your mind?" Brian would just smirk. "Yeah, I lost it the day I fell for you." Frustrated, she tried threatening him. "I'll tell Ethan you're harassing me." Brian's expression never wavered. "Then I'll tell him about our little history." "Think he'd believe you didn't want it?" Christine knew arguing was pointless. Brian held the power to destroy her marriage with just a few well-placed words. And eventually, on Ethan's 30th birthday, she cracked. That night felt like a flashback to their college days. Christine had thrown a huge party for Ethan, renting out a space just outside the city and inviting everyone he cared about. The music blasted, the drinks flowed, and before long, Ethan, never good with alcohol, was completely wasted. Hours into the celebration, he passed out in one of the bedrooms. That's when Brian made his move. Christine had just checked on Ethan, confirming he was out cold, when Brian found her. She'd been drinking heavily, too, her thoughts hazy, her body sluggish. And when he pulled her close, she didn't resist. The next morning, the weight of her actions hit her like a ton of bricks. She found Brian outside on the porch, cigarette in hand. He reached for her as she approached, but she recoiled, her entire body trembling with regret. "Relax," he muttered. "Nobody saw anything. We're fine." Christine wrenched her arm free. This was a mistake. A huge mistake. "Let's just forget it, please." Brian's lips curled into a knowing smirk. "You didn't seem to think it was a mistake last night. Guess that means Ethan's not all that great in bed." "Huh?" Before Christine could respond, they both turned and froze. Ethan stood in the doorway, eyes locked onto them. From the look on his face, he had heard enough. A flash of fury crossed his features before he lunged at Brian, sending them both crashing into the snow. The fight was brutal. Brian might have had military training, but Ethan was running on pure rage. He took punch after punch without even feeling them, fueled by betrayal. By the time some of the other guys managed to pull them apart, both were bloodied, still cursing and clawing at each other. Then Ethan turned to Christine. His face was streaked with sweat and blood, but it was his eyes that made her chest tighten. They were glossy with unshed tears, shining with heartbreak so raw it made her hate herself even more than she already did. He loved her. She knew how much he had loved her, and she had thrown it all away. At first, Ethan was ready to drive straight home and toss all her belongings out the window, but a co-worker pulled him aside. He reminded Ethan of the baby, of what Christine might do if he acted too rashly, and for a brief moment, Ethan managed to think past his rage. He decided against something drastic, but he wasted no time filing for divorce. Christine never even considered keeping Ethan from their daughter. She felt too much guilt to punish him any further. She begged for forgiveness, but Ethan wouldn't hear it. The betrayal, by both his wife and his best friend, was too deep, too public, too humiliating. He cut Brian out of his life completely, and he did the same to Christine. She moved back in with her parents, who didn't hold back their disappointment but still supported her. They helped watch the baby while Christine tried to rebuild what was left of her life. But nothing seemed to work. Every man she dated turned out to be a disappointment, a reminder that she had already lost the best thing she'd ever had. At the end of each exhausting day, she'd tuck her daughter into bed, then bury her face in a pillow and sob, suffocated by guilt. She had once been loved deeply, unconditionally, and now that love was gone forever.